My nephew, he's a little boy of 7 years old. I think he's going to be some sort of like startup founder, but he is obsessed with Pokemon, as a lot of some kids are. But these Pokemon things, I think it's a complete scam, but they're ridiculously expensive for all these books. But he was adamant that he wanted these Pokemon cards. And my sister was like, sorry, I'm not going to fork that cash out. But she said, if you want to run like a tuck shop at your sports day this week, I will loan you the money to buy your goods. So he was like, cool, we got this. So they went off together to Macro, bought like boxes of fizzes and suckers and you name it. It was very clear that my sister, this was a loan. She had to pay it back by the end of the week. He then sat all day at this little like table with his glass jars of sweets with a little like sticky price tag on each of them. And it helps that he's a little cute rascal, because I imagine all the mothers that came past there were like, okay, we'll happily, support your cause. Little did they know the money was going to freaking Pokemon. But I think the powerful thing there, I think he tripled his money.
Wow.
Well, after paying back the loan, basically. So he, made 200% profit just on selling like suckers and fizzes. And I think the power there is to know, it's like, wow, okay, if I had 100 Rand to buy fizzes or to like make cakes and then sell them at school, there's a potential there of really like investment related growth.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Frankly Speaking. I am Keval, and I'm part of the finance and ops team here at Franc. And today I am joined by an honorable guest, one of our founding fathers, Tom. Welcome.
Thanks, Keval. It's great to be here, man.
Cool. Today we'll just be talking a bit about money and the importance of saving. And when should you start to teach your children about the concept of money? So, Tom, being a new father,
newly minted father,
very, very new. How's it going, first of all?
She's great. My daughter, Elia, she's 15 months old. First word came out last week, which is
wow.
Dada. I was pretty chuffed about
Impressive.
that.
There's one of the wife over there.
Yeah, I know. She's kind of upset about that. And I think the nanny's come in second place.
Oh.
My wife's feeling pretty aggrieved.
Devastated.
But no, she's a delight.
No, that's good. So, obviously children don't really understand the concept of money and saving. When do you think is a good time to start teaching them about this concept?
I think it's important to, from an early stage, help children understand that, there's some things are theirs and some things are not theirs, right? And that there's this boundary line between their desires and the possibilities of what they can want. Obviously, as I think they hit sort of about 6-7 years old, hopefully you can start introducing this idea of like, I can give you something now, but I'm going to keep something back. We actually started Elia's investment account the first week she was born.
Wow.
And I think the reason why I did that is not from a teaching perspective, but actually just to give her investment the longest possible time to grow. But I think that has a benefit from a teaching perspective because, a child, I think, measures everything in sweets, let's be honest, right? So it's how many sweets can I buy with my pocket money, or how many sweets can I buy at the tuck shop? And the problem is if you are seeing interest being earned on your account, but it's like 1 cent or 2 cents, I don't think it has the same cognitive significance as opposed to money that's actually, wow, I just earned like 5 sweets today. Like that's something that becomes conceptual. But the only way to get there is actually to start a little bit earlier as a parent, so that even if you're just putting in a small amount of money, like I'm putting in at the moment 500 Rand a month, but by the time that she reaches 6, 7, 8 years old, she can see that actually this money is earning sweets, on a daily basis. And then there, I think there's a real opportunity for learning. So once the sort of, this engine has sort of started building its own momentum, which is almost like the parent's responsibility, then I think it's showing your child that actually money is not just, if I put it in the piggy box, I'm going to get the same amount tomorrow. But it's actually, if you put it to work, then, you have this multiplication that one sweet can become like 5 sweets, it could become 10 sweets. And that's where I think children might take interest.
The piggy bank really takes me back to my childhood. As growing up, my mom would give me pocket money, like a weekly pocket money when I was in school. And obviously I could spend it on whatever I would like. And most of it used to be at the tuck shop at school. And I remember getting to the Friday at the end of the week and shaking that piggy bank and emptying it out and only being 2 rand and 5 rand in there. And I was like, I can only afford two lollipops.
No, it's such the case. So my parents opened a bank account for me like quite early. It was like, at that stage, it was something called Permanent Bank, but they had this kids account. But I was just so frustrated because I'd put money away. It's like, okay, my parents would take me to the bank and I'd like, write up my little deposit slip for my like 5 rand or 10 rand. But I would see my balance, and my balance would be less than the money that I'd put in, because they were like charging me like small expense, but like some expense. And I was like, that's not right, At least in a piggy bank, you're getting your money back. But I still think, like, obviously those two things are very different to actually the potential of what money can really do, which is, when invested, grow. So I think it's important to kind of recognize as a parent, like, okay, how is a child going to think about this, Are they just going to get back what they put in? Which is okay. You're just delaying gratification, but it's like, I could either enjoy my marshmallow now or later, same amount of enjoyment, as opposed to, wow, I could have 2 marshmallows tomorrow instead of 1 marshmallow today.
And I'm sure having a child now is a big change to you and your wife's lives. So how important is it for parents to budget for this? And how did you go about doing it?
Yeah, I mean, as I'm sure you'll find out in due course, there is like so much around the maternity space. And I take my hat off to many women, because they are bombarded, when they're pregnant and when they've just given birth, about so many things that, they put under pressure, like, oh, this is what good moms have to do or must do. And so, trying to navigate through that space is really tough. I think it's really tough. We got some really good advice. Somebody was saying, like, invest on an as and when basis. And actually it was my wife's gynecologist who says, like, all you need is a nappy and your breasts. When your child's born, that's literally all you need. And I think if you go from a mindset, it's like, okay, I'm gonna invest as and when. I think from one perspective, you'll probably like minimize what you will do, because if you go out thinking that you've got to cater for like every possible scenario, it's gonna blow any budget you ever came across. The next reality is to know that actually there are just expenses that you can't predict. Like our child, Elia, was allergic to egg. It's not a very common allergy, and most children outgrow it. But it's concerning. Obviously, you give your child scrambled egg, as I'm sure many
Staple
parents
diet.
do, staple diet, and all of a sudden, this little girl's got, an itchy neck and hives on her thing. And so obviously we're scared, and you go to see a pediatrician who's a specialist in allergies, and that's costing money. And the only way I think to deal with those type of events is just to have almost like a child emergency fund, right? You're not going to be able to cater for everything. So, in addition to sort of buying as and when, I think just making sure every month you're really living within your means, like it's a period of your life where you're not going to be going out very often, you don't really have and that's fine. But it's like, use those proceeds, use those savings, and put it into an emergency fund that is almost dedicated for, like, if something goes wrong, you're fine, and you don't have to like scramble to use your credit card or something else, which is going to be far more costly for you as a family.
I'm sure your late nights that you experienced in university compared to now is very different.
Very different.
Another important resource for children growing up is obviously they play a lot of games, they begin to read books, but it's not just playing normal games, it also helps for their development, is educational games. How important is introducing financial literacy type of games and books to children?
So important, fundamentally. And I think I'm a little bit biased. My mother was a maths teacher, and I really think it's important that at a basic level, people understand, enough maths to be able to manage the world of money. Unfortunately, you're dealing with digits. You've got to be able to add. You've got to be able to subtract, multiply, understand percentages. From discounts perspectives to the interest that you can earn, to understanding the costs of a given investment. And although obviously you can get more complicated, I think from a child's perspective, it's really important to at least try get that sort of baseline of maths. And I think that there are so many resources out there, and whether it's like bean counters or like Lego blocks, and you're saying like, add this number of Lego blocks to that number of Lego blocks, and you can make it fun. I don't think maths has to be boring or like, a dreaded thing to do for kids. In addition to that, I think, particularly when it comes to money, I think this idea of budgeting, I think is really positive. So it's like, okay, if we're going to give you this pocket money, sit down with your child and be like, okay, it's a week's pocket money. What do you want? What do you want this week? And when do you want that? And then helping them kind of plan out their week. And like, okay, well, I want to go to the tuck shop tomorrow, or I want to, when I go to the beach, get an ice cream, or whatever the case may be. And then, ballpark, you can sort of say, okay, well, you'll be able to afford this, that, and that, but I don't think you'll have enough money for, that Coke at the park or whatever. And by helping them construct or realize that, like, resources are finite, so being able to put a budget and being able to kind of allocate those resources appropriately, I think is really important. So as soon as pocket money comes onto the table, I think it's worthwhile just sitting down like with your child and being like, "This is your money. You can do whatever you want with it, but let's just think about how you wanted to spend it." And then you can actually turn it into a fun thing. You'll be like, like you're looking forward to that ice cream or looking forward to that thing that you've waited the week to buy.
I think that is very important, because not only does it teach them about money, but it also teaches them responsibility and how to prioritize what they want.
Yeah, 100%.
If you had to go back to when you were growing up as a child or a teenager in school, knowing now what you do, what you know about saving, how important it is to save towards your future, what would you change?
I think for me, there's like a penny drop moment, and I can remember when it happened, and terribly, it happened 3 years ago, which is like way too late, way too late. But it's when you realize that like money has growth potential, because I think prior to that, investing, my parents weren't really good with money, so I'd heard of investing, but I didn't. And it was like something that I thought I had to do without actually really appreciating its benefit or its utility. So I think I would like love to go back and actually go back really young and go back to like, my teenage years and see if I could, get that moment started more quickly. And just to give you one example, my nephew, he's a little boy of 7 years old. I think he's going to be some sort of like startup founder, but he is obsessed with Pokemon, as some kids are. But these Pokemon things, I think it's a complete scam, but they're ridiculously expensive, all these books. But he was adamant that he wanted these Pokemon cards. And my sister was like, sorry, I'm not going to fork that cash out. But she said, but if you want to run like a tuck shop at your sports day this week, I will loan you the money to buy your goods. So he was like, cool, we got this. So they went off together to Macro, bought like boxes of fizzes and suckers and you name it. It was very clear that my sister, this was a loan. She had to pay it back by the end of the week. He then sat all day at this little like table with his like, glass jars of sweets. With a little like sticky price tag on each of them. And it helps that he's a little cute rascal, because I imagine all the mothers that came past there were like, okay, we'll happily, support your cause. Little did they know the money was going to freaking Pokemon. But I think the powerful thing there, I think he tripled his money.
Wow.
Well, after paying back the loan, basically. So he, made 200% profit. just on selling like suckers and fizzes. And I think the power there is to know, it's like, wow, okay, like, if I had 100 Rand to buy fizzes or to like make cakes and then sell them at school, there's a potential there of really like investment related growth. And although that's a business activity, you're still investing in something that has the potential to make a return, whether that's an equity investment or obviously interest, and compounding interest takes a longer period of time. So I think it's a little bit more difficult to get to that moment. But I think I would have like encouraged my high school self to like, I don't know, make fudge, make like crunchies, like, figure out some hustle at school where there's probably going to be a market. Like, who doesn't love fudge?
Exactly.
And like talk to my parents and get the loan of like whatever 100 Rand to buy the butter, the syrup and the sugar that you need, and then invest that time and get that return. That's what I do differently.
I think your school probably would have banned you, Tom, because you'd have taken all the market share from the actual tuck shop at school. But
Yeah.
anyway, thanks so much, Tom, for joining us today and being here and sharing your thoughts on being a father and how to budget and advise your child on how to invest for their own future. Really
Thanks,
appreciate
Keval.
it.
Thanks, man. It's
Cool.
always great to chat.
No problem. Thanks for joining us on another episode of Frankly Speaking.